How to train your dog to use a dog door. Having a dog door can be great for dogs and their owners because they give the dog a bit more freedom to go in and out of the house as they please, and owners won't have to wake up early in the morning to take the dog for a morning walk. However, dogs aren't always able to figure out how to use a dog door on their own, and may even be afraid of it at first. Take steps to train your dog to use the door and they'll be happy to use it in no time. Method 1. Training your dog using treats and verbal encouragement. Schedule training session appropriately. It is important to limit your dog's training to short spans of time when you can give your dog your undivided attention. Choose a time of day where you won't be distracted by other tasks, and when your dog is alert and active. Make sure to have your dog's favorite treats easily accessible, as you will want to be able to give them the treat immediately after performing the correct behavior. Limit training sessions to 10 minutes at a time. This will help both you and your dog avoid becoming frustrated. You can do more than one session in a day, but be sure to have several hours rest in between each session, and don't push your dog's attention by going over 10 minutes of training. Decide whether your dog would rather go in or out. Does your dog love to be lazy and lay inside on the couch, or would they rather be outside running around in the yard? When training your dog, you'll want them to have as much incentive as possible to go through the door. If your dog loves being outside, do your training sessions so that the dog is inside and you are outside. Practice with your dog going both in and out of the door, but if your dog is not using the door at all, start with getting your dog to go the place they enjoy being most. Get some treats with a strong scent. Choose a treat that has a strong enough smell so that they will be able to smell the treats from a few feet away. Put a few of the treats in your hand and close your fist tightly. Let the dog smell and lick your hand so that they know you have them. You will use these treats as a reward for going all the way through the dog door. It is important to reward your dog for any progress though. In the case that your dog comes to or part way through the door, use lots of verbal encouragement, but don't give the dog the treat. Stand on the opposite side of the door as your dog. Let your dog see you going through the door. This doesn't mean you need to crawl through the dog door yourself, but your dog should be fully aware that you are on the other side of the door. For example, if your dog door is installed in the door, then let your dog see you exit through that door, the human door. If your dog's door is installed in a normal wall, make sure your dog sees you leaving. Lift the flap all the way up. If your dog door is the type that requires a chip, you will have to disable it for training. Lift the flap as far open as it will go. In the initial training stage, it is important that the flap doesn't hit your dog on their way in or out. For some dogs this can be traumatic and will make them afraid of the door. Call your dog. Make sure you use a very happy and enthusiastic voice. Act as though you have never been more excited to see your dog, and that you really want them to come to you. Using an enthusiastic voice will excite your dog and make them want to come to you. Reward them. It is important to reward the dog with lots of verbal encouragement as they come toward and through the door, even if they don't go all the way through. If your dog does make it all the way through, you should celebrate with them as though it's the best thing that ever happened, and be sure to give them a treat. Offer them lots of affection and use a very happy tone of voice. This will show them that they did the right thing, and that going through the dog door is not off limits. If your dog is skittish, you should use a happy voice and lots of affection, but don't yell as this may scare them. Try to adapt the reward to your dog's personality. If your dog is easily frightened, then keep a happy, but soft voice. Go to the other side of the door. Now you can repeat the process, but this time with you on the opposite side from where you started. This way, your dog will get used to going both ways. If your dog is still pretty frightened of the door, you can stay on the same side as you started, which means that your dog is coming through the door to their favorite place, inside or outside, and to their favorite person, you. Hold the flap a bit lower. Once your dog seems comfortable with going through the dog door with the flap completely open, have them do the same thing, but this time, hold the flap so it is only halfway open. This will mean that the flap touches your dog. This may be a bit more frightening for your dog, so remember to use lots and lots of encouragement, even if they don't make it all the way through. Remember not to push your dog too hard. If you try lowering the flap, but your dog is too scared to come through, end the session and begin again in a few hours, or the next day, but with the flap a bit more open. Lower the flap more and more. As the training continues and your dog becomes more comfortable with the flap touching them, you can lower it a little more each time. Keep the training positive and upbeat. Eventually your dog will go through the flap without you holding it at all. Take it slow though. It is important to understand that training may take weeks or months for some dogs. If you notice that your dog is becoming fearful at any point, stop the training and start again with the flap a bit higher, or all the way up. It may take patience, but eventually they will learn that the door is a good thing. Have the dog use the flap without calling. Throughout the training, you have been using your calls as a signal to come through the door. Once your dog seems completely comfortable with going through the flap unassisted, you can teach them that it is okay to go through the flap without you. To do this, put your dog on one side of the door and go to the other side without calling them. Do something that you know your dog enjoys. Go outside and play, with kids if you have them. Run around the yard and make happy noises that will signal to the dog that they are missing out on something fun. If they come out the door on their own, celebrate with them. Give them lots of affection and play with their favorite toy with them. Method 2. Pushing your dog through the door. Decide whether or not your dog's personality is right for this method. This method should only be used by dogs who aren't afraid of the door, but simply haven't figured out how to use the door. If you try this method and your dog exhibits any fear, then try a different method. This method probably won't work well for a large dog that you can't easily pick up and place through the door using 2 hands. Choose the right time to train your dog. When training your dog, choose a time where your dog is active and alert and where you won't be distracted or disturbed by other things going on in the house. Limit the training session to 10 minutes at a time to avoid frustration. If you train for too long, both you and your dog might become frustrated, which will cause the dog to associate the door with negative feelings. By limiting sessions to 10 minutes at a time, you improve your chances for success. You can train more than once a day if you like, but be sure to have several hours rest in between each session. Pick your dog up. Using a soft, soothing voice, pick your dog up using both hands. You don't want your dog to get the idea that something bad is going to happen or that they have done something wrong. Make sure that it is clear that everything is all right. Hold your hands gently but firmly around your dog's ribcage so that they feel secure. Place your dog gently through the door. To do this, you will need to press your dog's face gently up against the door and push him through. Do this gently and slowly so that your dog won't become frightened. Do this gently. Don't jam your dog through the door, as you will probably scare them, and you might even injure them. Praise your dog. Once your dog is through the door, get excited. Show the dog that you are happy that they went through the door, and give them lots of affection and a treat, if you want. If your dog seemed fearful or agitated by the door, stop the training and try another method. Repeat this process a few times. As long as your dog seems comfortable, you can continue this type of training over the course of a few days. Each time you place your dog through the door, be sure to celebrate the event with lots of attention. You can put the dog through the door more than once in a training session, but remember to limit the session to 10 minutes. Hold your dog in front of the door. Once you have put your dog through the door several times, try holding the dog around the ribcage a few inches from the door. The dog should use his own nose to push his way through the door. If the dog doesn't seem to understand, keep placing the dog through on your own. Eventually, they will get the hang of it. Don't forget to give your dog lots of praise when they push themselves through the door. Call the dog back through the door. Once your dog has learned how to push their way through the door, stand on the other side and call your dog. If they come through on their own, give them lots of praise and a treat. If they don't come back through, pick them up and hold them in front of the door again so they can push their way through. Method 3. Ensuring safety. Make sure the door is big enough that your dog can fit easily. The door should be at least 2 inches, 5.5 centimeters, above the top of your dog's shoulders to be tall enough for them. Additionally, the door must be at least 2 inches, 5.5 centimeters, wider than the widest part of your dog's body, usually the shoulders or hips. When installing your dog's door, be sure to consider that they may gain weight as they age. Though you want to ensure that your dog stays at a healthy weight, if they are on the thin side at the moment, consider that they may get a bit wider in old age. If your dog is a puppy when you install the door, be sure to think about the fact that they will grow. In the case of some breeds, your puppy will grow significantly. When installing the door, find out how big the dog could possibly get and install a door that will be big enough for a full-grown dog of that size. Consider the possibility of intruders. This doesn't necessarily refer to people, though if your dog door is big enough, burglars could potentially enter through an unsecured dog door. You should also think about potential animals in your area that might enter through the dog's door. For example, if you live in an area where there are many raccoons, they could sneak in through the door. If you are worried about this issue, consider installing a plastic door that comes with a lock. This will allow you to manually lock and unlock the door when you need to. You could also consider an electronic door. These doors come with a chip that goes on your dog's collar, and will only open for an animal wearing the chip. Some doors even work with your pet's microchip, and will open for your dog when he comes close to it. Make sure that your yard is a safe place for your dog. Dog doors should open to an area that will be safe for your dog. Usually, this will be your fenced-in yard. Before training your dog to use the door, take time to make sure that your yard will be safe for your dog. For example, make sure that your fence is high enough so that your dog cannot jump out. Some dogs can jump higher than you might think, so do some research into your dog's breed to see how high they might be able to jump. Reinforce your fence, if necessary. If a dog can't jump out, they may dig themselves out more easily. You can prevent this by lining your fence with large stones or by having your fence extend into the ground so that your dog would have to dig very deep in order to get out. Before letting your dog in the yard unsupervised, be sure to spend time watching their behavior in the yard to help identify any areas in the fence where your dog might consider as a good play to jump over or dig under. Check for poisonous plants and chemicals in your yard. Some plants are toxic to dogs. For example, a weed known as foxtail grass can make your dog very sick if it gets in their eyes or mouth. Other plants such as ferns, aloe vera, and alocasia are all toxic to dogs. You can find a more complete list of all plants toxic to dogs here. Put away any pesticides or chemicals that are laying around. If you notice any bottles of weed killer, chemicals, or any substance that can be potentially harmful to your dog, find a safe place to store it. Don't leave it laying around or your dog may get bored and play with it. If you have treated your lawn with any pesticides or chemicals, check the label to see what it says about pets. If it doesn't say anything, keep your dog off of the lawn for at least 24 hours after application and contact your veterinarian to see what they say. Pick up any small rocks, toys, or other debris that your dog could swallow. Dogs sometimes swallow rocks on accident, and these stones can get caught in their intestines. The same goes for any small items your dog could fit in his mouth, which they could swallow or choke on. Limit the things lying in your yard to toys that are safe for your dog. Make sure the yard will be a fun place for your dog. While you want your yard to be safe for your dog, you also want it to be fun so the dog doesn't get bored and look for ways to escape. Make sure your dog has access to fresh water, shade to get out of a hot sun, and plenty of dog-friendly toys to play with. For example, toys that are made of rubber and are free from strings or other pieces that might be chewed off and ingested are a good choice. Make sure that the toy is large enough so that your dog can chew on it or play with it, but can't be swallowed. If you want to give your dog something soft to give them comfort while you are gone during the day, try wearing around a soft, old sweater for a few days. Then give this to your dog to have. It will provide them with something to carry around in their mouth, and will be comforting to them because it smells like you. Teach children that the dog door is not for them. If you have young children, it is important that you teach them that the dog door is only for the dog. A small child trying to squeeze through a dog door could get stuck and suffer from injuries. It could even prove fatal if the child gets stuck in the door and cannot breathe. Installing a dog door that can only be opened with a microchip or a chip on the dog's collar may also help prevent this.